Hello, everyone. I'm Kenneth Adams. Welcome to opening sessions for spring 2021 and to the President's Briefing. Here's our agenda. My talk this morning should last about 40 minutes. It's divided into 4 parts. First, a progress report on our strategic objectives, additional lessons from my listening tour, the road ahead, and finally, my vision for LaGuardia. Let's start with an update on my strategic objectives. As a reminder, when I last spoke with you back on October 29th regarding the initial findings from my listening tour, I identified 5 strategic objectives and committed to working on them during my first year here at LaGuardia. Now, here's a refresher. The strategic objectives are increasing enrollment, providing special support to students, faculty, and staff during COVID, building a more inclusive community, increasing fundraising, and supporting the economic recovery of Queens. With respect to enrollment, unfortunately, we still have a problem. This slide compares fall 19 FTE enrollment with fall 20. Now, as a reminder, FTE stands for full-time equivalent. It's based on a formula that accounts for the many part-time students community colleges typically have, and it is what our government funding is based on. Last fall is that low bar on the right, showing about 11,500 FTEs. So here's where we are for spring 21, which starts on Saturday. We're down to about 9,000 FTEs, a significant drop from the same time last year. Take a look at this 6-year trend. This is all 7 CUNY community colleges combined. Unfortunately, we are all moving together in the wrong direction. This is a troubling trend. Of course, COVID has made it much worse. Back in October, I pledged that we would pursue new advertising and outreach strategies. And you know what? Social media works. Gina Taraskevich and Caridad Munoz are leading this effort, and they're getting good results. And now we're advertising in Spanish, Bengali, and Mandarin. I also promised that we would work to strengthen our student recruitment pipelines and seek out older students and students coming to degree programs from ACE, Adult and Continuing Education. Many of you have worked extremely hard to make the transition to remote learning a success for our students. In a few moments, I'm going to show you some findings from student surveys that confirm that LaGuardia students rate their online learning experiences significantly higher than do the students of other CUNY community colleges and even senior colleges. A major objective I announced back in October was to build a more inclusive community. This slide lists the members of my President's Advisory Council on DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I'm grateful to these colleagues for their guidance on this critical topic, and I've been learning a lot from them. I'm pleased to announce that the CUNY Central Office recently approved our hiring a director of DEI for LaGuardia. Now, it's not easy to get approval for a new position during the current CUNY hiring freeze, but in this case, we prevailed. The President's Advisory Council helped me write the position description, and the job should be posted next week. Council member Jason Hendrickson has agreed to chair the search. Our new director of DEI will report to me and serve in my cabinet. Please help Jason and me identify strong candidates for this really important position. Back in October, I also committed to increasing our fundraising. In these challenging times, we need to secure all the additional financial support we can. I started by reorganizing LaGuardia's approach to development. Previously, college fundraising, the grants office, and the foundation were in silos, each working independently. Now they're consolidated under the leadership of Laura Bartovics. I eliminated the VP of an institutional advancement position, saved some money, and promoted Laura from within to guide this important work. Foundation fundraising is going well this year. Board members and donors are stepping up to provide extra support to our students during the pandemic. And this slide tells an encouraging story. Today, we are more than $200,000 ahead of our fundraising goal for the entire year, and we still have more than 4 months to go. And here you can see how our foundation resources are distributed. That big chunk that's blue, 42% you see in the slide, scholarships to LaGuardia students. The orange slice, 12% of the overall pie, emergency aid, like for help with food and rent. And other things, other areas that we support include on-campus employment, paid internships, and special programs. You may recall that I announced a commitment to support the economic recovery of Queens. The first step was to launch a new ACE scholarship fund for low-income Queens residents in search of training so that they can get a new job, get back on their feet, and provide for their families. Before the holidays, the foundation board, under the leadership of our chair, Susie Scanlon, approved my plan and agreed to a fundraising goal of $500,000. To date, we've already raised $390,000, and our colleagues in ACE began awarding these scholarships several weeks ago. The next slide lists some of the ACE programs Sunil Gupta, our new VP of ACE, and his team are running now. Current enrollment, about 2,000 students and growing. This is where we can really help Queens residents whose lives have been shattered by the pandemic. Finally, let's not forget, LaGuardia is well prepared to support the recovery of Queens thanks to the small business assistance programs funded by various government agencies that we have in the ACE division under the leadership of Asanta Howard. Did you know, for example, that Asanta's colleagues in the Small Business Development Center secured $500,000 to support small businesses this year? Or that with the help of the LaGuardia Procurement Technical Assistance Center, the PTAC, a small business owner scored a $60 million contract to make PPE gowns. This is yet another way we can really make a difference in our community. Let's transition now to part 2, some additional lessons from my learning tour. The President's Transition Action Team, or PTAT, co-chaired by Tawanika Smith and Robert Jaffe, has been extremely helpful at providing guidance and feedback to me during my first year as your new president. Team members have done outreach across the campus to identify key issues for me to address. And I want to share what I've been learning from them since I last spoke with you. One of the first concerns cited by the team was about how important decisions get made at LaGuardia. Your colleagues asked, who's in the room? Can someone explain the budget process? Hey, is there really a hiring freeze going on around here? Seems like decisions are made behind closed doors. Well, I think there are a number of things we need to do to improve decision-making at LaGuardia. Let's start with this. I want to work to enhance communication, improve transparency, and increase engagement. To get this right, I suggest we apply these 5 principles when thinking about any important decision-making process. Fairness, consistency, inclusivity, clarity, integrity. Now, this kind of improvement needs to start at the top. So I am committing to increasing my communication with the LaGuardia community. Keep your eyes out for my new videos, monthly newsletter, town hall meetings on Zoom, podcasts, and some radio appearances on WLGR, LaGuardia Web Radio. Thank you, Hugo Fernandez. Another way to address concerns about how decisions get made is to focus on college governance. For me, that means increased participation in our college Senate. Thanks to Senate President Christy Bruns, my Wednesday afternoons are getting all booked up. I will be teeing up important discussions in Senate, budget presentations, HR and administrative updates, meetings with certain Senate committees, and much more. Efforts to ensure inclusive decision-making are underway. Let me give you an example. Instead of just asking HR to write up the job description for the new director of DEI, I asked the President's Advisory Council to work on it. Yes, drafting a job description by committee takes longer, but making sure people's voices are heard is worth it. Here's something else I heard in my listening tour. This is a serious problem at LaGuardia: bullying. Too many of you have mentioned to me threats, intimidation, unkind and disrespectful treatment. And a number of you have told me that this has been going on for a long time. Indeed, 2 coach surveys, as well as faculty and staff of color collective surveys, confirm this problem. Now, we don't need more surveys about bullying at LaGuardia. We need to stop it. This is going to be a special area of focus for Ron Edwards, our new executive director of HR, who started on Monday. In the meantime, here's my take. Certain supervisory tactics can make someone feel bullied. For example, work assignments that are out of scope, out of title. Unrealistic demands, asking someone to do a project, but then putting a deadline on it that's just unreachable. One-way communication, right? That's when the manager is telling you what to do and you just don't have any or discuss it. Assigning a project but not providing adequate support. And that's kind of like assignments in which the supervisor says, I need you to do this, and you get an assignment, but you just feel like you're being set up to fail. You know, all of these are forms of bullying. Certainly feel like that to the person being bullied. Anyway, if you're the victim of bullying at LaGuardia, please reach out for help. Reach out to your VP, to Ron and HR. And if you think you may be the victim of discrimination or sexual harassment, reach out to our Chief Diversity Officer, who's our Title IX coordinator. That's Chris Carosa. In the Transition Action Team, we spent a lot of time discussing the challenges of working remotely and how to maintain a positive work-life balance during COVID. We all know this can be really hard. And here's what I'm hearing. A lot of this, by the way, a lot of this is about excessive workloads. And yes, some of this is bullying by managers. People say, for example, it's not clear when my workday's really over. I get emails at night or on weekends. My manager makes me account for every minute of the day. Hey, when do I feed the kids? Our students want 24/7 service. What am I supposed to do? This is all real. Look, I'm going to ask Ron Edwards to work with managers and address these concerns. I think we may need some training, professional development, other support to reduce these workload complaints that are related to working from home during a pandemic. For what it's worth, I embedded this message into my email signature a few weeks ago. Take a second to read it. It's just a thought. I've spent a lot of time managing managers in my career. True, never in a pandemic with everybody working from home. Still, here are some tips for LaGuardia supervisors and managers from me, based on my experience. Please give these some consideration. It's really important to negotiate goals and outcomes with each member of your team individually. Respect work schedules. Don't assume, ask. Speak to your colleagues about how they're coping. Be flexible, be patient. Agree on a goal with the person you're working with, the person on your team. Agree on the outcome, but don't micromanage. You work with professionals, they know how to get the job done. Don't confuse effort for results. We seek results, we seek outcomes for the benefit of our students. One worker may take more time to get there, one worker may do it in a different way. Don't confuse the effort for the results. And again, just trust your people. Here's another tough issue raised by members of the team and many others. Coping with stress and anxiety and all the ways stress is intensified by COVID. This is tough because it's deeply personal. We're not physically together. And as an employer, frankly, we never have sufficient staff or resources to help everyone who needs support in a meaningful way. Here's some good news. VP Nyrita Seals was able to get funding from CUNY to hire 6 additional part-time wellness counselors. So now we're up to 14 counselors and social workers in the wellness centers. Let me ask us all, please, to do a little more to look out for one another. Check on your friends and colleagues. Don't assume they're all coping okay. This is really hard. Be observant, listen carefully, reach out when in doubt. Now, the final example of a concern brought to my attention as my listening tour has been winding down. Discrepancies between college policies and practices. This could be possibly a red flag for our middle state self-study, but fortunately, we have a hardworking committee led by Leslie Skramaka, who's the College Senate parliamentarian, digging in. This group, the Governance Plan Revision Committee, is thoroughly scrubbing all of our governance documents. And when they find a gap between policy and practice, there are 3 solutions. They can update the written policy to conform to the new practice. They can restore the former practice to conform with the original policy. Or they can just design a new policy and practice altogether. Part 3, the road ahead. Sorry, but we've got to start the new semester mindful of where we are with enrollment. So I'm showing you this slide again. It's from earlier in the presentation. Here you go. 9,000 FTEs, full-time equivalent students, heading into Saturday. This is way below where we need to be to pay the bills. In fact, next slide, let's look at the bills. Here's a budget update. Our operating deficit has improved slightly since the fall, but we are still in an untenable financial situation with a projected $21 million shortfall for the fiscal year ending June 30th. You can see that bottom line in brackets. This is caused by a yawning gap between our operating costs and our revenue, which comes from student tuition payments, mostly in the form of government-provided financial aid and taxpayer subsidies. This gap is unsustainable. VP Shahir Irfan and I await guidance from the CUNY Central Office to resolve this issue. I know we're all concerned about student debt. It's a serious problem across the country and here in CUNY as well. Because of economic hardship caused by the pandemic and the suspension of bursar holds in the fall semester, more and more LaGuardia students are accruing significant amounts of debt. And remember, community college debt in CUNY is ultimately owed to the city of New York. Unpaid CUNY debt becomes a long-term financial burden for thousands of CUNY students. All right, let's take a look at the numbers. This chart's a little hard to see. Here's what jumps out at me. Right now, we have about 6,500 students that owe us almost $12 million in total. That's the middle row in the chart. The number of LaGuardia students with outstanding balances has doubled since last year. The average amount of per student debt, about $1,800. That's up about $400 per student since last year. All right, what does this mean in terms of bursar holds? Interim PSC Chapter Chair Laura Tannenbaum and I have been in frequent communication about bursar holds. Laura has raised good points and made several helpful suggestions. Let's take a moment to review how bursar holds work. According to CUNY policy, an unpaid balance of just 1 penny triggers a bursar hold, which blocks a student from registering for classes. Now, in reality, informally, colleges set their own thresholds. For this semester, we're using a cutoff of $500. Some community colleges in CUNY have a cutoff that's a little higher, some are lower. 500 is about average. Now that means that for students with balances below $500, we release the hold and they can register for classes, but of course their debt doesn't go away. For unpaid balances above $500, the hold stays in place. To get the hold released, these students have to contact the bursar's office and come up with a way to pay down their balance. And they don't have to pay it all at once. We're as flexible and as accommodating as we can be. Some students opt to go on a payment plan. Some make an initial payment, kind of like a deposit to show good faith. Some work out installment payments. Students whose balances may be paid down by a pending financial aid award, they have their holds released. Trust me, we try to release as many holds as we can. We want our students back in class. In general, the students for whom the holds stick are those that refuse to respond to the bursar's office outreach and have this conversation. In effect, they walk away. Of course, they can always return for the following semester, but they will have to be willing to work with us to develop a plan to deal with their debt. Some of you may object to all this, I know, but remember, CUNY is not free. And we have a duty to help our students avoid or limit their college debt and manage their financial obligations responsibly. And think about it. If a student in your class is working a night shift at 7-Eleven in order to pay for her LaGuardia education, and a student at the desk behind her is sitting there for free, that's not right. Here's some good news. Mindful of rising student debt, the directors of the LaGuardia Auxiliary voted a few weeks ago to allocate $750,000 to assist students with bursar holds. Gail Bax-Jarrett, Director of Financial Aid, and her team are working with those students now, applying these new funds to reduce their debts, release their holds, and get them into class as quickly as possible. Laura Tannenbaum also suggested using new federal aid to help LaGuardia students with these outstanding balances and bursar holds. This too is a good idea, but here's the problem. Classes start Saturday and we don't have any of that money yet. What's more, CUNY is yet to provide guidance on how these funds, should we receive them, are to be spent. Stay tuned. I'll keep you posted. Earlier this week, Provost Paul Arcario and I received emails from many of you. I'll say that again, many of you, imploring us to stop class cancellations, avoid reducing adjunct assignments, and not force adjuncts to lose their health insurance. Since we're still registering students for the new semester, this is a bit of a moving target, but here's where we are today. In the end, despite our falling enrollment, remember that slide? We only had to cancel 53 sections out of 1,911. Of the 541 adjuncts who taught in the fall semester, only one did not get any classes for the spring. 9 adjuncts lost a class, but they're still at work. They've got other classes. And no adjuncts lost their health insurance. Let me say that again. No adjuncts lost their health insurance. Paul and I heard you loud and clear, and we responded. 3 things were key to this result. First, Paul and our department chairs worked really hard to do the schedules and fill those 1,911 sections in ways that would prevent negative impacts on adjuncts. It's complicated. Second, as some of you know, we agreed to lower class minimums to 12 students. That helped a lot, but it turned out not to be enough. So third, we decided to run 135 sections below the minimum of 12. That closed the gap. Here's something special we're doing to help students this spring semester. We're creating a socially distanced study hall. Students can reserve 3-hour sessions at individual socially distant workstations. There'll be a system on our website where they can book their time in the study hall online. Of course, all health and safety controls will be in place, and sorry students, no socializing. This is for studying, getting your work done. I want to thank Provost Paul Arcario and all the members of the Fall 21 Planning Group for their diligent, thoughtful work on our plans for gradually coming back to campus. For now, please note that the goal of 25% in-person or hybrid classes is just a planning goal. It's not a mandate. It's a scenario we're preparing for, again, as a planning exercise. We await guidance from the CUNY Central Office regarding many issues related to this. For example, HR considerations, vaccination policies, testing policies, and much more. You should know that we didn't pull the 25% planning scenario out of thin air. Based on surveys we have from students and faculty, I don't think it's unreasonable. Let's take a quick look. This is from a student survey done back in the fall. Look at that first line. 64% of LaGuardia students prefer in-person or hybrid classes. Now, at the same time, our students give faculty very good grades as remote educators, which is terrific. Indeed, LaGuardia students rated their distance learning experience higher than did students in other CUNY community colleges and senior colleges. Thanks here to the great work of our faculty and to the Center for Teaching and Learning. Take a look at some of this. 73% of our LaGuardia students in this survey said they get clear instructions on how to complete course assignments. 72% they have clear understanding of their professor's expectations. 68% get clear and helpful feedback on exams and assignments. And I like this last bullet a lot. 72% of LaGuardia students in this survey said they are challenged to do their best in their courses, even during a pandemic, even with everything remote, everything online. So how do faculty feel about teaching online? This is from the faculty survey on preferred teaching modality. This was done in December, organized, administered by our Dean of Institutional Research, Nava Lehrer. This is really interesting. First bullet stands out to me. Teaching fully online only. That modality of fully online teaching only was selected by 41% of our faculty respondents. And you can see the other mixes, hybrid, mixed modality, in-person only, and how faculty feel there. By the way, they're significant, it's understandable, but these answers, when you break it out by department, show significant differences in modality preferences. Again, department to department. All right, time for the last section of my presentation, part 4, my vision for LaGuardia. During my listening tour, a number of you stopped me and you asked me about my vision for LaGuardia. It's a fair question. My vision for LaGuardia is in development. Let's just say it's a work in progress. You see, I don't believe a leader of an institution like LaGuardia should show up on day one and simply announce a vision. It doesn't work for me. If a vision is a roadmap to the future, how can it be developed without an understanding of the past? It's important to distinguish vision from mission. Our mission statement outlines a goal, a purpose for LaGuardia. A vision is expansive and aspirational. It plays to our strengths, drives change, makes us unique. It shapes how we deliver on our mission. A vision should bring us together in common cause and give us hope. To formulate a meaningful vision for LaGuardia, I need to learn about our history, culture, strengths, and challenges, and combine this knowledge with my own beliefs and values and my convictions about the unique responsibilities of community colleges. And the more I do this with your input, the better. I want my vision, or our vision, to be respectful of LaGuardia's history, responsive to our community, mindful of your experiences, and shaped by our students' needs. And this takes a little time to figure out. So, sorry to disappoint some of you, but I don't have a ready-to-go bumper sticker version of a vision. Having said that, let me share some of my core beliefs that serve as a foundation for this vision in development. Student-centered. I like to think that LaGuardia is owned by its students, not by us. And since they're the owners, we work for them. We are more like trustees. We've been entrusted to educate our students and to support them, which is an honor, and to serve as prudent stewards of the resources, especially their tuition dollars, that we spend to meet their needs. Implicitly, they trust us. We cannot let them down. The success with which we meet our students' needs is theirs to judge. Did a LaGuardia education serve them well? They know best. Our obligation is to do all we can to enable our students to secure the outcomes that they seek, which in most cases is a rewarding job in a field of interest with a family-sustaining wage. That outcome may happen after a student completes an AAS program, such as nursing or new media technology, but for the most part, it requires our students to transfer to a senior college and earn a baccalaureate degree or more. In my view, we haven't fully succeeded until our students get their BA or BS degrees and land a good job, because that's why they came to LaGuardia in the first place. And for most of them, a 60-credit associate degree will never be enough. Now, this is a bold assertion for a community college, and some might reject it on the grounds that it's hard for us to influence our students' experience at a senior college. But just because it's hard is no reason not to propose it as a way to view our success. I know some of you question the emphasis I place on job and career outcomes for community college students. It's true. I value them a lot. But a college education and career success are not mutually exclusive. There's abundant research to remind us that humanities students benefit from IT skills, just as STEM majors need communication and critical thinking. All LaGuardia students benefit when we give them a full package of knowledge, skills, experience, and support, regardless of their major. Number 2, academic excellence. Nothing is more important for our students than their classroom experience. To this end, we should aspire to have the best faculty in CUNY. And we should support our faculty so that they have the tools, resources, and professional development to teach at their very best. All teaching talent fully deployed, in person or remote, no student missing out. Sorry if in our current resource-constrained environment, you aren't feeling all the support right now, but remember, this is a vision and aspiration. By the way, for evidence of teaching excellence, look no further than the recent nomination of 8, I'll say that again, 8 LaGuardia students as Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship semifinalists, or the 100% pass rates for the past 8 quarters on the licensing exam for our nursing students. 3, a truly inclusive community. We must dedicate ourselves to becoming a diverse, inclusive, supportive community in which everyone feels valued, all voices are heard and respected, no one's left out. No one experiences prejudice or discrimination, no bullying, no microaggressions, unfairness, or bias, period, full stop. Number 4, a leading Hispanic serving institution. This is in our LaGuardia DNA. It is our history and part of our civic and educational responsibility. While our enrollment of Latinx students has declined in recent years, we are still the second largest HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution, in New York State. We need to rethink what it means to be an HSI community college today in New York City and strive to become one of the best in the country. If not in Queens, where? And if not now, when? Number 5, outstanding student support. LaGuardia staff do an excellent job supporting our students in countless ways. Still, we can always do more. Last week, Nava Lair, our Dean of Institutional Research, shared with me the good news that our 3-year graduation rate, which was already the highest among all CUNY community colleges, just increased again to 32%. This is terrific, and it speaks volumes about the talent and commitment of our faculty, the dedication of our advisors, peer mentors, counselors, tutors, financial aid experts, and the many others who devote themselves to supporting LaGuardia students. This is great news that we should all be proud of. Number 6, a culture of innovation. We face lots of challenges, that's for sure, at LaGuardia, across CUNY, and in the world around us. But LaGuardia faculty and staff excel at solutions. We experiment, we take risks, we innovate, and we measure and evaluate, all in constant pursuit of greater success for our students. We need to nurture and encourage this special culture of innovation. 7, in service to our community. We need to rebuild our connections to Queens, recommit to a mission of service, and make good on our obligations as a civic-minded anchor institution of this great city. This too is our history. LaGuardia was established 50 years ago to serve the communities of Western Queens, whose residents were the victims of the decline in manufacturing. As a reminder, look no further than our own campus buildings, each one formerly a factory, in which thousands of working class New Yorkers, many of them immigrants and people of color, earned a decent living. In its early years, LaGuardia combined an educational mission with a commitment to serving its community. Now more than ever, it's time to rededicate ourselves to that commitment. We're not called LaGuardia College. Let's be sure that we honor the second word in our name. 8, it's one house. We need to reject the traditional counterproductive separation between credit and non-credit programs, and with it, the archaic language of the credit side of the house versus the non-credit side of the house. It should be one house. We must bridge the gap between adult and continuing education, or ACE, and our degree programs, so that students of all ages, backgrounds, and educational goals can move back and forth, taking the courses they need to meet their educational needs. ACE programs should link to degree programs. Degree students should earn industry certifications, including micro-credentials in ACE. Number 9, a great place to work. We have to create the working conditions and campus climate that enable LaGuardia to retain talent and attract the most highly qualified candidates when we have job openings for faculty and staff. Anyone in this whole region that wants to work at a community college should have LaGuardia at the top of their list. As Ron Edwards, our new head of HR, will tell you, an employer of choice doesn't need to recruit. Talented people are always knocking down the door because they want to work at such a place. It's a sign of a positive work environment and a high-functioning organization that takes care of its people. LaGuardia has to become an employer of choice. Well, I hope you agree with most, if not all, of these 9 fundamentals. Let's talk about them more in the weeks and months ahead. Before I close, I want to thank you for welcoming me to LaGuardia. You know, I just hit my 6-month anniversary. And I am so grateful to all of you who have taken the time to show me around and introduce me to LaGuardia, virtually, of course. I appreciate your kindness, generosity, and patience. I rely on your advice and guidance, and I cherish your friendships. At the end of the next 6 months, as I complete my first year here, I'm going to ask you for a favor. Don't judge me just by what I know. Judge me by what I have learned from you. Final request. If I may, we need as many of you as possible to participate in our Middle States accreditation process. Under the leadership of Reem Jafar and Justin Rogers Cooper, The Self-Study Steering Committee is hard at work, but we need more input from you, more participants in the work groups focused on the 7 Middle State Standards, and broad participation in community events for the self-study. Please help us. Reach out to Reem or Justin and get involved. Thank you. Wait, there's one more thing. Here's a reminder about LaGuardia Cares and the important work Rhonda Mouton and her team do to support our students during these very difficult and challenging times. Please consider making a contribution to the food pantry. Well, this concludes my opening session remarks for Spring 21. Please send comments, feedback, questions to me at presidentadams@lagcc.cuny.edu. And stay tuned for announcements of my upcoming podcasts and spring semester town hall meetings. Stay safe and healthy. Until next time, thank you.